Welcome back to the Federal Drive with Terry Gerton on Federal News Network. Finding safe, nurturing, affordable childcare can be like searching for a unicorn, especially for people who work odd hours or live in childcare deserts. An old program to solve this problem is making a comeback. Joining me with more details is the Senior Vice President at Cultural Care Au Pair, Natalie Jordan. Natalie, thanks so much for joining me.
Terry, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
This is an interesting topic, and we've done a couple of stories on it lately. We've talked about OPM closing its oversight office for federal child care centers in federal buildings and the staffing challenges that DOD is facing in its DOD child care network. But let's talk specifically today from the perspective of a military family. What sorts of child care challenges and issues are they facing in the environment today?
Well, from what we understand from our families who are affiliated with the military, there are a number of challenges. There have always been limited spots available to parents to be able to have their children go into any care centers, whether that be on base or through any of the military offerings. And as of late, we also understand that that limitation has obviously gotten even more intense. This program fits an interesting space for a number of those families where any number of circumstances can arise, not only a limitation on accessibility, but also in the event that you have a spouse who is deployed and suddenly you're basically operating as a single parent for a certain period of time, or where there's a transfer to another U.S. base. With all of the complications and challenges that can come from uprooting your family, one of the things that can be quite stressful, particularly for military families, is what will my care plan be in this new location? Maybe they become now the newest add to an already very long list of people waiting for care. But with the au pair program, that is a member of your family who can go with you. And so they move with you to that new location. There's a flexibility to the program, and there is a personal connection through the program that's just so unique and so different than a outsourced center or going to other sort of care plan that is outside of the home. And so the au pair program fits this really interesting space that is occupied by more and more military families as they learn about the program and understand, oh, that can be a really interesting fit for our family.
Well, I lived the military child care experience as a part of a dual career Army couple. My 3 adult children now all successfully navigated military child care, both center-based care and home-based care. And in a couple of cases, we needed to have a nanny because the other center-based care wasn't available. But we never went the au pair route. So tell us a little bit more about the au pair program itself.
Sure. The au pair program is nearly 40 years old, and so it's a very well-established cultural exchange program here in the United States. What many people don't know is that the au pair program is actually a federally regulated cultural exchange program. So you have young men and women who are 18 to 26 years old who come from countries around the world, and they come to live with an American family on a 1-year J-1 visa. And part of the program is to fully immerse themselves into American life, really getting exposed to American values and traditions, understanding the United States from a first-hand experience rather than what they might see in the news or social media, and that has a real transformative impression that it can make on young people. And at that window of 18 to 26, that's a pretty key time in their lives. For American families, they welcome someone who they truly embrace as an extended member of the family. And with that, there's a closeness and there is a bond that's created that allows them to really create a trusted relationship when it comes to the care of their children. So au pairs are, by regulation, limited in the amount of childcare they can provide, but it is quite flexible because, of course, they live in the home. They have a maximum of 45 hours per week that they can be on duty and no more than 10 hours in a given day. Now, working within those parameters, that gives a lot of flexibility, particularly for military families who can sometimes have unorthodox or non-traditional schedules, also may have changes that they don't get a lot of notice on, but don't really have any choice. They have to report in. And so those are circumstances that work really well with the program where you can really work together with your au pair to determine the schedule on a week-to-week basis that really works best for both of you. For the au pairs, not only are they learning about the American experience by virtue of being a part of an American family, but they're also taking classes at a local college, and they're participating in cultural exchange activities that we as a program sponsor make available to them. What we find is that families and au pairs create relationships that last well beyond their time together just on the program term, and that these become sons and daughters. We find that there are endless stories of families who are invited to the weddings of au pairs, that children and grandchildren share names based on their history together. And it's a really, really beautiful program. I have been honored to be a part of it for 26 years in my career. And it is just it's truly a labor of love for me, because I get to see these really transformational experiences and these global families that get connected. And one thing that's so unique I wanted to mention about military families is that there's often an appreciation for other cultures based on the deployment they may have had to different parts around the world. And so we find that a family where someone was stationed in Germany, for example, or another part of the world that really became meaningful to them, that they want to bring some of the cultural traditions and understandings that they gained by virtue of the service that they gave in that particular country. And they can find that through the au pair program and sort of bring the world to their kids right here in the United States.
I'm speaking with Natalie Jordan. She's the Senior Vice President at Cultural Care Au Pair. Natalie, you've been talking a lot about the benefits to both the family and the au pair. How does the cost compare for a military family, say, compared to the child care center or a home-based care option?
Well, as any family can tell you, and certainly in your own experience, whether you're looking at a daycare or a professional nanny, the cost can really range. And oftentimes what you find is that cost is based upon how many children are enrolled, for example, in a daycare center. The younger the children, the more expensive the care can be. So families can really be spending, 30, 40, 50% of their salary on just childcare alone. And that can be even conservative in some places. For the au pair program, the average cost for our particular program is about $17.85 per month. So that's a combination of what is required by the State Department as a minimum payment each week to the au pair, but then also program fees that they pay as well. So we find that particularly for families with multiple children, it becomes a very economical option to consider, particularly when you think about the flexibility and the opportunity for a program like this to be able to be so sustainable regardless of other circumstances. And we certainly saw that with COVID, right? So during a time where many daycare centers were closing down, we see places closing down for a number of reasons. Maybe it's because of a closure, for economic reasons. But during COVID, there were certainly health concerns. And the au pair program was an ability for families to continue to work, even if they were working remotely. They could still focus on their jobs. And the au pair remained in the home. So even they were not commuting back and forth to another location. So at a time where people were figuring out what is COVID and how does it work and how do we keep ourselves safe, these family units that included an au pair was a way for so many families to be able to keep things moving forward with less interruptions than others may have had to face.
I think one of the things that makes the program especially attractive is that it is highly regulated. The State Department is responsible for it. How is the State Department in this current administration thinking about the au pair program? Are they interested in it? Are they paying attention?
I think that this administration, along with every other administration, has recognized that this program serves a really important purpose for so many American families. And we certainly have families throughout many different occupations, those who are in public service, who are in the private sector as well, who are benefiting from and quite frankly depend on this program. We not only have military families, but we have a number of first responders as well, firefighters, law enforcement, those who are really in positions of keeping us safe in many, many aspects and are the first ones to answer the call when the public needs them. And so this program, again, helps to keep everything else stable for so many of those families, while other things can be a little bit chaotic. It has continued to receive bipartisan support throughout its entire nearly 40-year existence, which I think is really, really important. And I think that the program is undeniably an important part of why so many families are able to continue working. And when we think about that in the context of military families, it's something that helps to keep our country safer. And there's also a lot to be said for adding to the prosperity of the United States when we think about sort of the mission and the goals of the stated goals of this administration. with respect to the fact that au pairs are spending a great deal of their recreational income, right? They earn the stipend every week at local restaurants, shopping, entertainment, travel. And so there's a reinvestment into the communities where the au pairs are staying, not to, of course, miss the fact that they also are enrolled in local colleges for their classes as well. So there's a lot of reciprocity with the benefits of the program for the families, the au pairs, and the communities at large.
So if we've piqued someone's interest in this conversation, where should they go to learn more?
Well, there's a few places they can look. One place that we would encourage people to learn about the program at large is on our website, AmericanFamiliesForCulturalExchange.org, or they could come to our website, culturalcare.com. But those are both great resources for people to learn a little bit more about the program.
Natalie Jordan is the Senior Vice President at Cultural Care Au Pair. Thank you for joining me today and for explaining this really important option.
Thank you so much for having me, Terry. I really appreciate it.
We will post this interview at federalnewsnetwork.com/Federal Drive. Follow us on LinkedIn and Facebook and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.